these bronzes around here are heads that I made more than 20 years ago. Over the years I've been making one or two more and making larger versions of them. Mm-hmm. When we moved here, and that was 1998, I didn't have a studio at all. So I rented a small studio, and I just brought with me something about a lump of plaster about this size, and which reminded me of the Rodin's Man with the Broken Nose. So I went on working on that in this little rented studio, and I didn't really have many ideas, except I thought I would just be doing drawings. But I did drawings of this piece as it went along, and then I got interested in the whole idea. So I started making new pieces and drawing them, and in the end I had all these pieces, this group here and this one, they are all going along at the same time in plaster. They all start off vertical, and then and the drawings that I made of them were of them vertical, facing you. I mean, it didn't seem to make any sense to not draw the face. The one on the left there, which is called Maria Luisa, that's after Goya's pictures of the royal family, you know. And that one's called Our Leader. And that one is Good Soldier. Do you know the novel, The Good Soldier? At some point, I decided who they were, you know, during the process. And so then I had a kind of, they weren't just a head, you know, they were a character, somebody I knew from literature or art history or whatever, that I was familiar with, so I could then develop them in terms of my knowledge of them, my familiarity. You know, obviously the shape of the head as it emerged suggested who it was. These are subjects for drawing. This was a rock that I found when we were staying with Jeff Lowe in Portugal. There was this little piece of rock, and it seemed to me very heavy. I thought it was iron, but it's just rock that's got a lot of iron in it. Anyhow, I wanted to make a sculpture out of it. Really, I liked the shape of it, and so I asked a friend, John Galt over at Skidmore, to scan it and make a 3D print of it. And then I added clay to it and filed it away and that kind of thing. And then he made it a bit bigger. So it went through a series of scale changes until it got to this scale. And then I enlarged that up to big. This one, which is called Little Jean, so this was a kind of nod to Matisse. I really like this one. This is the Hunter Gracchus that we'll be talking about. It was on a higher surface, and so I just put it down. I guess maybe it'll go down further, but I want it to be looking up at you. it grew out of a plaster cast of little Jean upstairs, and I worked on that some, and then I got that enlarged in foam, and so this actually started out vertical. It was just too obvious. It was just the way that it looked at you, you know. It looked too much just like a great Roman head, you know, and I didn't recognize it. It didn't seem to have, you know, it just seemed like a big head. Well, and it wasn't, it didn't have any character. You know, I think little Jean does have character, but enlarging it, just bringing it up to that. And, you know, it wasn't just foam. I was kind of working at it and cutting into it and that kind of thing. But it just, the where it was facing you was just too crude, you know, it was just too obvious. And so I started to kind of work it, you know, try it on different sides of it, and or completely upside down. I mean, you can see there's lots of potential surfaces that it could rest on, and then it was about the time that I was reading Kafka that I came across this the hunter Gracchus story. And then that kind of the idea of this person who's not alive or dead, you know, but just is there and on his bier. So that made sense that if he was on his bier and he was looking up at you and talking to you, this would be, you know, that seemed to be what it was about, you know. So I went on working on it from that point of view. When you saw it, how soon did you recognize the image? I mean, how soon did you see this as a head, as it is? So when they go through this process of enlargement, it really becomes an issue on at which point do you recognize them. And so I sort of resist the idea of making it really obvious. I mean, I think that discovering that this is a head looking at you is part of the sculpture itself. You know, the perception of the sculpture is part of it. And even when you do recognize it, and you're not, after that point, you can't really forget it. You know what I mean? That you can look at the shape of it and enjoy the shape of it, and you don't necessarily, you can enjoy a particular shape without thinking, well, is this an eye or an ear? You know, it's a lump. You know, the whole thing is a big lump and composed of smaller lumps, you know, and that's true of this as well. I felt, you know, like the hunter Gracchus. I have felt like the hunter Gracchus in this kind of between state where I don't really know if I'm alive or dead. You know, there's really no communication going on, no actual physical close communication going on. I had also, I've been trying to do things on Zoom, actually, and I took part, a neighbor of ours, a poet, does this reading every July 4th of Leaves of Grass. It's a nice July the 4th celebration. well, it had to be done on Zoom, and it went quite well, I think, except that for some reason, my image didn't come up. So I was reading a bit, but I was just not there. They could hear my voice, and I was taking part, and I could see them, but I wasn't present. I thought that was a very strange kind of place to be.